I lived in Columbia, South Carolina, and frequented the Conagry National Park, so I'm familiar with the area. I would often jump the fence and walk the boardwalk at night, since it's super peaceful to walk the swamp and hear all the wildlife. They never had a ranger or guard there after hours, so I was always alone. The last time I did this was October 21st. I was taking my usual stroll with a flashlight in hand. I should mention, between the insects and frogs, the sound is loud, but then it completely stopped when I was about a mile in. Then I heard what I thought was my wife call me from the trail ahead, but she wasn't there. I was alone and she was out of town. I then heard water sloshing to my right and saw nothing with my flashlight. I chalked it up to being tired and kept moving. The wildlife started up shortly after and everything was fine. Maybe about 15 minutes later, I noticed it got eerily quiet again and heard swamp water sloshing to my left this time, but this time it was more deliberate, like somebody walking. I was in a thick portion of the cypress and couldn't see more than 20 feet in front of me, and then I heard my wife's voice again. Again, she wasn't with me and was out of town, certainly not moving through a swamp at 1 a.m. I saw what looked like a human silhouette move between the trees for a split second, but it was off. I don't know how to explain. It was very skinny, pale and taller than me, at 6 foot, at least from my standpoint. After that, I noped the fuck out of there and ran almost 2 miles back to my truck and did not slow down once until I heard the wildlife again. Like I said, this was a boardwalk that's in a swamp in the boonies. Nobody's walking around in the water at night without a light, or ever. I don't know of any animal that big that also walks in a bipedal pattern, and I've spent my entire life in the outdoors. I feel that I should add that I wasn't sleep deprived. I just like the woods at night. I was so freaked out by that experience that I never went to that area since. This happened way back in October of 2006. At that time, I was just a 19-year-old kid, always on the lookout for adventure. One Friday night after wrapping up my shift at McDonald's, I met up with some friends who suggested we check out this haunted location called White's Bridge. My one buddy Brendan said he had recently learned about it and began telling us the legends associated with the 100-year-old wood-covered bridge. Never one to turn down a spooky experience, we all piled into my green Ford Taurus and headed out on our journey. Brendan gave us directions, guiding me off the main road, and within minutes we were on the dirt back roads, surrounded by woods and cornfields. Our only point of reference was a blinking cell tower off in the distance. We could tell we were getting further from the city as our cell phones began slowly losing service. As we rode deeper and deeper into what legitimately felt like the absolute middle of nowhere, Brendan repeated the legend associated with the bridge. Back in the early 1900s, a local farmer discovered that his beloved wife had been cheating on him, and in a fit of rage, he killed her and her lover after discovering them in the act. After committing the cold-blooded murder, the farmer left his home and wandered through the dirt roads in a daze. He eventually came upon White's Bridge, where the realization of what he had done finally began to sink in, and deciding he would rather die than face the consequences of his actions, he hoisted a rope up and over one of the bridge's rafters and hung himself. As far as I can tell now, the story was complete fiction, but we totally believed it at the time. After a long and bumpy ride, Brendan instructed me to turn right on an off-road that I would have never noticed otherwise if he hadn't pointed it out. I took the turn, and there before us was White's Bridge. It looked like something straight out of a horror film. An old wood-covered bridge, aged by time, sitting alone above a river deep in the middle of nowhere. We parked the car on the side of the road and got out to explore. Immediately catching our eyes was a scarecrow lying abandoned at the entrance to the bridge. My friend Mike, who was known as somewhat of a risk-taker, and the stupid one at that, picked up the scarecrow and lit it on fire. The hay body burst up into a ball of flames, and Mike waved it around proudly next to the old dry wood bridge. Realizing the risk, I told him to throw the damn thing in the river and put it out, which thankfully he did. After making sure there weren't any rogue embers that could ignite the bridge, Brendan suggested we get back in the car and pull it onto the bridge. He explained that the legend was if you parked your car in the middle of the bridge, put it in neutral and killed the engine, the spirit of the dead farmer would push the vehicle forward to get it off the bridge. Naturally, we had to try this. We piled back in and did exactly as he said. We parked halfway across the rickety old bridge and killed the engine. We sat in pitch black, saying nothing, waiting for something, anything to happen. The only sounds were the creaking of the bridge, the river flowing beneath us, and footsteps. Suddenly, the back driver's side door opens and a woman abruptly enters the back seat, cramming in next to my two friends back there. She looked to be in her late 20s or early 30s, long straight black hair, slim, and wearing a plaid shirt and blue jeans. It's been a while, but this is essentially how I remember the conversation going. "I saw your fire signal for me," she said. Wait, what?" I replied, totally freaked out and at a complete loss for words. "I'm so glad you came. My boyfriend's car broke down that way. I need a ride back." My brain was doing its best to compute the situation. Sorry, but who are you?" I asked. "What are you doing out here?" "I told you," she responded curtly. "My boyfriend's car broke down over there. Can you please just give me a ride there so I don't have to walk all the way back?" She was pointing ahead towards a narrow road that forked off to the right on the other side of the bridge. My friend Mike, the scarecrow burner, and quite the gentleman, added, "I mean, if you need a place to stay, you're more than welcome to stay at my place and crash for the night. I got plenty to drink," and I interrupted him. "No, lady, listen, I'm sorry. I don't know who you are. You just gotta get out of my car. You could be an axe murderer for all I know. And I'm sorry. You have to get out." She glared at me in the rearview mirror. If looks could kill, I would have been done for. "But you signaled for me," she responded in an irritated tone. "We weren't signaling for you, just get out," I said. She let out an angry sigh and got out, walked back in the direction from which she came, disappearing into the night. They all had looks of disbelief on their face. Without saying a word, I put the car in drive and slowly rolled forward and off the bridge. We needed to turn around and go back across the bridge to get back to where we had come from, and the only way to do that was to pull onto the side road that the woman said her boyfriend's car had broken down on, and then reverse. As I pulled onto the side road, my headlights illuminated the 3 posted signs that I had not been able to see from the bridge: "No trespassing," "Private property," and "Do not enter." Looking up the road, there was no sign of the woman. Wherever she went, it didn't appear that she went that way. I didn't want to stick around though, so I backed up and crossed the bridge again, and from there, we began the journey home. We didn't say much on the ride home. I think we were all equally stunned, except for Mike, who asked if he knew anyone that would be awake at this hour that he could score some weed from. I visited White's Bridge a couple of times after that, but nothing of note happened in my subsequent visits. It was rebuilt, but from what I hear, it's just not the same as the original. I don't have any plans to go and check it out again. My boyfriend and I had been dating almost a month at this point, back in 2020. It was late October, almost Halloween, and my aunt told me about this cool, unknown grave off of Lake Erie in a nature park. We went there and got super lost, and neither of us had reception, but we had a lot of fun. We stayed on the trails, so we weren't lost, and we could get back to the parking lot, but just lost enough to be the creepy kind of fun we were looking for. We finally found the grave, got some pictures and videos, took a short break, and saw that the lake was less than 10 yards from us, but we were at the top of a cliff, so we decided to follow the trails further out along the lake until we found a trail spot that took us to the little secluded beach. It was about 9 p.m., but it was October, so it was already really dark out, and it was partly cloudy, but the slight amount of stars lit up the lake in a way that was beautiful, so we sat on a log and just looked out while chatting a bit. After about 15 minutes of just sitting, looking and relaxing, we both see this flash of light that came up from behind us. I should tell you, just for clarification, we were sober, so we both saw this flash and instantly freeze, look at each other, and ask if we both saw it. We turned on our flashlights and turned around to see where it came from. It looked like a really bright camera flash, but there was no one there. But we hadn't seen or heard anyone else out there the entire time we were here, and it had been about 2 hours, I think. We even checked around for trail cams in the area, and we couldn't find anything. So we both grabbed large sticks from the beach and started walking down the trail to try and get back to the car. We didn't take the same trail back, which was kind of a lucky judgment on our parts, because the one we took was way faster than the one we took to get there. But the whole way back, we kept seeing eyes in the woods around us. They were just deer, of course, and coyotes and other animals inhabiting the area, and we knew that, but it still just creeped us out a bit nonetheless. We made it back to the car without incident, and then we went home okay. We still don't know what that flash was. It was pretty creepy, but we had a lot of fun that night.